Hey, yo. How's it going, everybody? It's time for the weekly wrap up of stuff that I've read. If you had a chance to join Rasa and myself this afternoon, we did talk about some of these here, but like I've talked about before, I'd like to do just kind of a shorter video where I just kind of touch on some of the books that I read this week. 64-page special. How the heck are you? So back there is a new little file folder because I'm a nerd and I have all the stuff that I've been reading. I just put that up this afternoon and I love it. Helping kind of keep stuff off of all the boxes up here. So we'll just get right into it and look at some of the stuff that I read. I guess we'll start out with this one. So I've had these 2 volumes of Storm for, oh geez, I don't even know how long at this point. Quite a while now, a good year probably. And I've flipped through them many times, but I just haven't sat down and just read them. So this week I made my way through both of these, and I'm really glad that I did. Paulo Costa has said that of the Don Lawrence stuff, because I was showing this one last time, this Trigon Empire that I picked up, and he was saying that this Storm is probably his favorite from Don Lawrence, and I can absolutely see why. The Trigon Empire is entertaining so far. I've barely put a dent in it, but still I'm working my way through it. But this is incredible, and I mean, one of the things that works so well for me is just the imagination of these worlds and some of the things that happen. Obviously, it's not just Don Lawrence himself doing it. It is Martin Lodwick as well, too. But in this first story, and I think I've shown this when I first picked this up as well, part of our story, Storm and his female companion, Ember. Ember gets kind of taken prisoner and hung over this creature that's living in the earth, or not living, sorry, that's buried in the earth, and they're going to lower her down into his mouth, and if Storm doesn't kind of go along with what they want him to do. So there's little touches like, well, not little touches, that's a pretty fucking huge one. There's things like that just make it completely ridiculously good. And later on in the story, when they both end up inside this creature and starting to get digested by the stomach acids, is just incredible. And I mean, Don Lawrence's art is so beautiful. This whole passage in this one, they come across a it's a spaceship, but the people of this planet think it's some gods putting a test to them, so they can gain kind of enlightenment and going through this gauntlet of things. And basically, it's this ship that's been there for I don't know how many thousands of years. That's kind of gone into a automatic mode and set up these defense mechanisms so people can't get to the bridge and take over the ship. So Storm, being from basically another reality, I guess, or Earth from a million years before, or whatever the timeline is, has some knowledge of this technology. This planet is kind of regressed. I don't remember if this is Earth or what it is, but it's kind of regressed. So he still has a lot of the knowledge that he has come with from his Earth, and kind of leads the way of these warriors to take over this ship. Really cool. And it just doesn't let up from there. So once that book is finished, we dive right into book 2, The Pirates of Pandarvi. And we meet a new villain. Marduk is his name, which is the name of a black metal band as well. So it's always great when you see stuff like that. Who has this technology where he can isolate what he calls the anomaly being Storm, because he's not from their time and place. So he wants to try to harness the power that Storm has to, the usual, oh, just take over the universe, that type of thing. So he sends this ray down. He shoots this ray from his planet basically to pick up Storm. Ember kind of grabs on, and they both get taken away and end up, the beam gets cut off by these insurgents on the planet, and they end up hovering just in the atmosphere of the planet. Ember and Storm get separated. We get a fisherman of sorts who's killing this whale. Storm tries to communicate with them, but they can't communicate. So the fisherman feeds him a pearl from the whale, which then allows Storm and him to understand and communicate with each other. And it just goes from there. Just incredible stuff. So really enjoyed these two books, and this will be one that I hunt down some more of for sure. So solid recommendation there. Just to touch on a couple of the, hey, let's put them back. The whole reason I have the damn thing. A couple of the new books that I got. I haven't read this one, but I'd seen in a couple of videos from people, Monstrous is on a bit of a hiatus, and there's a 2-issue miniseries here where they're going to kind of go into the past of a couple of the characters. I have the first, I don't know if it's 4 or 5 issues of Monstrous. I have the first few issues of Monstrous anyway, that I was getting when they came out, and they just fell by the wayside, not because I didn't like it, just during the cleanse of having to cut the pull list and stuff, it just didn't make it. But I figured this might be a good spot to dip my toes back in and maybe try to collect some of the back issues and maybe give it a reread, because I do remember really digging it the first few issues, but I haven't read this one yet. The second issue of We Live, and this is fantastic. This is thanks to Damien, seeing it in one of his videos, that first issue. Snatched up that first issue and really enjoyed it. This one continues to be pretty damn great. Kind of the halfway point. There's a big kind of reveal in this one. There's a big twist in this one that legitimately caught me by surprise. The second half of this issue, I found a little disjointed. I couldn't quite follow what was going on. It felt like there was a part that I was reading where it almost felt like they had the pages out of order. I know that that's not the case, but that's the sense that I got, because I couldn't really follow the progression of the story. It felt like they were just jumping through time a little bit too abstractly, that I just couldn't follow. So this might take a reread. I mean, I say that, and I'm still going to keep on with this series. It's not turned me off of it for sure. The other one that I picked up, the first 2 issues of Scumbag. I saw a number of people talking about this one and wanted to give it a shot. I really enjoyed the first issue a hell of a lot. The second issue was fine. I didn't like it as much. We were talking about it this afternoon, and I think with some of this, it's really hard. The other thing that we were talking about that I was thinking about later and elaborating on for myself was, we were talking about satire, and there's this image that's gone around on the internet of that orange fuckwad sitting at a smaller table doing a presidential address or whatever. It's really hard to satire something that is so completely absurd already. And I feel like that's something that is going to be a challenge with this Scumbag. I do understand. I do like the idea of Rick Remender doing kind of what he's always done, a little more to the extreme. Our main character is someone who isn't very likable. The thing with this Scumbag is that, unlike his other stories where potentially those main characters are going to end up sort of doing the right thing anyway, feeling obligated to do the right thing. So far, this guy, he doesn't feel obligated to do anything than get fucking high, potentially go to see the Scorpions, and just out for himself, grab a little bit of ass while he can, get his hands on as much drugs as he possibly can, and just be oblivious to everything that's going on around him. So we kind of touch a little more into the kind of humor side in the second issue. Not that there's no humor in the first one. There definitely is. But I think it touches on it a little bit more in the second issue. And I just hope that, because with this stuff, there's the fear of, you know, you're preaching to the converted, right? Like, you're not talking to a bunch of people who aren't going to be sharing in your beliefs necessarily, who are going to be buying your comic. It's a really great double page spread there. But I completely lost my train of thought looking at him with his ass up in the air trying to find his needle of drugs or get his needle ready. Yeah, I legitimately just completely lost it. Anyway, so I just hope that it's not going to be something that's too obvious, because that just won't be entertaining. And I think the gist of my point is that when you have such an absurd situation that we face ourselves, that we're faced with these days, it's really difficult to do satire. I think I saw an interview with Chris Morris, and he was saying something similar. I don't remember what the movie was called that he was promoting. It was his newest one, and I'm blanking on the name. Chris Morris is a UK comedian who's done some fucking outstanding work throughout his life. He's easily one of my favorite comedians of all time. The guy's an absolute legend. And I think they were talking to him about it. How would you tackle it if you had the day-to-day, or if you had your news type programs? How would you tackle what's going on in the States with a character like Trump? And he basically said the same thing, that I don't know why you would even attempt to. It's impossible. You know, it's basically impossible. You just let these things play out, and the absurdity should be apparent to everybody looking on. There's really no need to comment on how absurd things are when every single fucking day you're met with just this buffoon. Yeah. So anyway, we'll see where Scumbag goes. I've added it to my pull list, which is now sitting at a whopping 5 or 6 titles, maybe, which is up from 2 or 3. And then I got into, let's maybe go to this one first. So I had a few through the Winnipeg Comic Addicts. There's always kind of auctions and stuff and listings on the Facebook page of people selling stuff. There's a few guys in that group that buy collections on a semi-regular basis, or when they can anyway. And one of them I've bought from many, many times. He was telling me when I saw him this weekend to pick these up, he did a meetup in a parking lot, basically, a wide open parking lot where you just showed up, gave him your money, he had your books in a bag kind of thing. And so I had a chance to chat with him just for a couple of minutes. And he was saying that one of the most recent collections he bought, I want to say that it was 5,000 books, but I don't know that to be true. I'm pretty sure that it was around there anyway. And he said there was quite a few Vertigo titles there, because I always end up buying these miniseries, like I've talked about in these videos before, specifically from the mid to late 90s. Not solely that, but that seems to be a real sweet spot for me. That's the one that I have the most nostalgia for, that era of Vertigo comics. And he was saying that this last collection, there's a lot of Vertigo titles. So, put it out there that whatever he has, I'm his man to pick some of that up if I don't already have it. And he says it's just hard to find information on a lot of these. They're not really worth too much. I mean, his main thing, obviously, with buying these collections is to sell and to make money and feed his own habit, because he also collects too. So I got a sweet deal on all of these, to say the least. I think it was like 22 books in total for about 15 bucks, or not about 15 bucks, it was 15 bucks. I'm pretty sure it was 22 or 23 books. So I'm halfway through this first one here. This is Vamps, Hollywood in Vain. This is Elaine Lee and William Simpson. This is the second miniseries in the Vamps. I think there was only 3 of them. And this is from 96. Yeah. February 1996 is when this first issue came out. And one of those things, when I talked about that Dracula book that I read, Fernando Fernandez, and how much that impressed me, considering it was about Dracula and it was vampires, this one has now reminded me why I don't really dip into the whole vampire world as much anymore with comics and things. I don't find it incredibly interesting or engaging. This one has a tiny bit of not necessarily a twist, but the main characters are these group of badass female vampires, and they're pretty brutal. They're not there to kind of they're this biker gang, basically. They're not there to kind of lull you in and, you know, let's have a little bit of lesbian vampire erotica. They're just there and gnawing on your fucking jugular and taking you down. So it has that going for it, which is fairly entertaining. There's a main character. There's a lot of poetic kind of writing in this. One of the characters is a poet, and they keep referring to it, and I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head. There was an actual real life person as well too. Doesn't seem to be related, just has the same name, but again, it could be in some kind of way, and I'm just unfamiliar with it. It's gonna bug me, so let's see if we can find the name. So they keep referring to his poetry and reciting some of it throughout the book, and it really just doesn't do much for me. The book there, Sonnets from the Grave by Hugh Evans. So Hugh Evans was the name. I should have had the window open to tell you who Hugh Evans was in the real world. It doesn't appear to me to be related to this character, but again, I'm not finished the series yet. So it takes place kind of in Hollywood, and they're going to be there's this kind of B movie producer who wants to shoot a vampire flick. And they treat everybody in Hollywood as poorly as they deserve to be treated, and that entertains me for sure, especially these scumbag fucking producers and things. So I do get some thrill out of that for sure, and kind of the idea that Hollywood will just suck you dry. You know what I mean? They'll take everything from you that they can. Another angle that I found interesting, and maybe it's like this in other vampire books, but nothing that I can think of. When they do start drinking blood, it just really intoxicates them. It really just brings them to this place. So it seems to be even beyond a junkie getting a fix. It's something else for them, where they're ingesting the life from somebody else. So that's kind of an interesting angle. I do wish the interior art looked as gnarly as this exterior art, because it's kind of a nice little bit of grotesque that I think would work well throughout an entire story. So, you know, 3 issues in, I don't know if I'll necessarily make a hard beeline to picking up the other Vamps miniseries, but if they pop up, I'll probably grab them just to get a little more sense, especially the first series. I wouldn't mind seeing where it started. And I am a fan of Elaine Lee. It's just this one isn't blowing me away so far. A couple of the other Vertigo titles that I picked up. There was 2 other miniseries. Let's see if we can get these sorted here. A 6-issue miniseries by, is it Bill Willingham? Called Proposition Player. Will Simpson's not the greatest. Yeah, I mean, his art in here is just okay. I guess I didn't really show any of the interior, or I just showed a little bit. It really does, and it's good that you bring it up there, 64 page, because, yeah, I mean, some of his facial features Like right there is a good one. You know, it has that overall kind of mid 90s Vertigo look, but not all the way there. Like those faces are pretty rough right there. It has enough of that 90s feel that it does work, but you know, you're not winning any awards with it for sure. So so Proposition Player, I haven't even looked into this yet. I've kind of flipped through one or two of the issues as I was sorting through them and bagging them up. But these will be the next ones that are on for me here. And what are these ones? These are 2000. Yeah. So just like 1999, December 99, and then into 2000. So just outside of that sweet spot. But again, I love me a good mini series, man. Just get into it, get a beginning, middle, and an end, and that's it. I'll take it. And then the 6th issue there. So not bad. And this one, when I posted these on Twitter, there was a couple of guys who were saying that this Heartthrobs is fantastic. And this is a 4-issue miniseries, so sort of a romance comic with a twist anthology with some great names. Like this one's got Brian Bolland in it, Tim Sale, Phil Jimenez, is that how you say it? Stephen T. Siegel. Brian Azzarello, Tim Bradstreet, Frank Quietly in issue number 2 with a ridiculously good cover there. And then Richard Corbin, Pete Milligan in this issue number 3. And then issue 4 has Bob Fingerman, Steve Gerber, Scott Cunningham. So I'm looking forward to that. Looks like not necessarily, as I was flipping through a couple of the issues, doesn't necessarily look like they all have the happiest of endings, a little bleak endings, but that should be entertaining. A random issue of Ghosts. When they're cheap, I grab them. This was cheap. I didn't have it. I'm not this one, when I looked through it, I haven't read it yet, but I sat and kind of leafed through it. There wasn't much in this one that really caught my attention. But these anthologies, like these horror ones from DC, I mean, besides Unexpected and maybe The Witching Hour, I'm not too concerned about getting all of these. It's not like a goal to get the whole run or anything. It's just that I don't mind picking them up when they're cheap. And an Elektra book that I don't know anything about. I don't recognize any of the names. Again, it was cheap. It's sort of Daredevil world related. I thought to give it a shot. Why the hell not? This is part 1 of, I don't know how many issues this went. I believe this was a mini series. A bit of, I was talking about it in the chat this afternoon with Rasa, a little bit of a Kelly Jones vibe to it. There's something about some of these images, especially on this last page here, that kind of remind me of Kelly Jones, especially that kind of coloring. Nicely embossed cover. There you go. You can see it there. And on the back as well, too. And then finally for tonight, one that the more I think about it and the more that I flip through it, and the more I look online to see the other issues, the more I'm kind of excited about it. Yeah, it's got cardstock. Yeah, that's exactly it. The more I'm kind of excited to get back into it. This afternoon, we ended up talking about, so there was a few things, like for me reading comics growing up, that I leaned to. One of them being like Mad Magazine was definitely an influence on me. Obviously touched on like underground comics in the past. Obviously we've talked about Vertigo comics, but one of the other ones that I was pretty hardcore into was anything with funny animals. You know, the geriatric gangrene jujitsu gerbils, kung fu kangaroos, cold-blooded chameleon commandos, all of that kind of shit. Fish police, I've still got some of. Captain Jack from Fantagraphics. I've got a bunch of those as well. And one of them that I didn't really get into at the time was Space Beaver. And these pop up pretty rarely for me. They don't pop up that often, but he had 4 issues. 1, 2, maybe it was it 4? Yeah, 1, 2, 4, and 5. So I figured I'd give them a shot. And like I said, the more that I look through these, the more I'm kind of excited. This one's out because I'm going to be reading it tonight. I've started in on it already. The more I'm excited to read these. They seem so absolutely ridiculous. But really, I don't know, man. They might just be a lot of fun. This is 86, this first issue. Yeah, October 1986. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. And this turtle really reminds me of the turtle from Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew. And I'm blanking on that turtle's name right now from that. Anyway, that's who it reminds me of. And then, of course, you get some beautiful back covers as well. But one that I wanted to... The first one that I looked through when I got these that really got my attention. So there's issue number 2. Fucking classic cover. And if you look online, I believe it's issue number 8. Just have a look at Space Beaver issue number 8, the front cover of that one, and tell me that you're not in love, because it's a phenomenal cover. So this is the one that I flipped through that kind of got me just absolutely chuckling. So this is issue number 4, and we get to meet our bounty hunter who's coming after Space Beaver. Is his name Stinger? Yeah, Stinger. There he is there. You get the classic, I mean, page 1. I'm a killer. Thwip. It's my job. Thwip. So with an opening like that, a page 1 like that, you know that you're in for a ride. And spoiler alert, we're going to look at the final pages of this issue. I know those of you who are following Space Beaver will be disappointed. So he's cornered Space Beaver in the woods and kind of knocked him on his ass. And he says, he leaps at me. I simply crouch and let his momentum do the rest. He's out cold. I find my crossbow and prepare to earn my money. All I have to do is pull the trigger and make $1 million. And that's what this is all for. The money. Thwip. But money isn't everything. And he shoots just past his head and walks off into the forest in the background. It's just ridiculous. So goddamn ridiculous. And then there's his turtle friend again, Tog. So, I don't know, man. Call me a sucker, but I'm a sucker. Space Beaver all the way. That was the subtitle to Barbarella, I think. So I'm looking forward to digging into that one. And then here's issue number 5. And I mean, now it's going to be something that I need to keep my eyes out for and pick up some more issues. It's great. It's really great. That's it. Is that it? Yes, that's it. It's an absolute mess in here. I took some time and cleaned up all the boxes and put stuff away. And it's just, I'm at a point of overflow. I do feel like I need another short box or 2, which is a little discouraging for me because that's getting a little more in here than I really want to have. So, but I really am at the limits of getting rid of stuff. There's nothing that I want to get rid of. So I'll have to figure something out. Anyway, thanks very much. 64-page special. Good to see you, man. It's been a while. And we'll talk to you next week. So Sunday we'll be back again for another chat. Rasa and myself, probably 2:30 again. And if you can make it, hang out with us, hang out in the chat, and kind of open invitation. If you follow me on Twitter or whatever, and you want to hang out with us, or you want to talk or some point and do a hangout, just shoot me a message. I can't promise you my schedule isn't always that really open, but the weekends tend to work. And especially if you want to come and hang out with Rasa and myself, we'd love to have some other people sit with us every once in a while and just kind of talk nonsense and talk comics. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a good night.